Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of the Foot Basket Podcast. I'm glad you guys are here today. I'm glad you tuned into the episode. I just want to first give all the glory to God, allowing me to do this podcast, allowing me to be here today, have the equipment, have the knowledge, and continue with God. I'm just so grateful, and I pray so much over everyone that watches it, over this podcast, over everything that involves it. So I'm just so thankful, so grateful. I can't wait to get what I got prepared for you guys. I also want to bring up if you have any quality issues, especially on YouTube. I know that it automatically does the average pixel rate. Just press the settings button in the top right, and you can press quality, and it'll fix your quality issues. If you want a higher quality, I film at 1080 pixels, and you could just do that real quick to just make the video just a little bit better for you. But yeah, and then if you aren't subscribed, I saw that 86% of my viewers aren't subscribed to my videos. So if you could just hit that subscribe button for me, that would be greatly appreciated. Like, comment, share, all of that. I know this is probably spring break for you guys, so hopefully this is a banger episode for you guys. I got some good stuff written down. Took some good. This was a good statistical and time consuming week to have prepared for you guys. But yeah, let's get straight into NBA games and what we have there. I know that I should start talking about some of these teams as I go through because I didn't watch too many NBA games. I was just watching like a lot of other podcasts, other YouTubers talk about NBA teams and how they're doing. Also, just looking at advanced stats as well. And I just want to give a big shout out to the Orlando Magic. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they lost recently, but last time I checked, they were on a 4-game win streak, and they are currently on, let's see their last games. Okay, so they did just lose today, but they beat the Heat, they beat the Wizards, they beat the Cavs, which is good. It's a good win. They beat the Bucks as well. They beat the Timberwolves, another good win. So they were on like a 7-game. Last time they lost was March 1st against the Pistons. Magic had been hooping. Desmond Bain has been looking great. Paulo Banchero's getting back into his bag. So I know the Magic has been cooking. Celtics as well have been looking really good. Tatum's games where he played the Wizards, he looked pretty good. Of course, he didn't play against OKC, and that was a good game. Another good game for OKC as well was the Nuggets, where Shea, I had back to back basically. I think it was the Celtics and the Nuggets, 2 hard games for them. I could be wrong. And he had a back to back like clutch shots. So clutch player of the year probably going to Shea maybe, in my opinion. But I know that the Celtics are having some good games as well. Some of the teams that's low-key falling off a little bit. Like a team like the 76ers, they get a win over the Grizzlies, but besides that, like the 76ers have fallen off the season a little bit, especially just with the injuries they're dealing with, the off-court stuff, especially stuff with like Paul George and him not playing, things like that. The Nuggets are still trying to fit in Cam Johnson. They had a good win. What team was that? I think it was the San Antonio Spurs that the Nuggets ended up playing. I can't find the game right now, but I remember watching that game. And like Cam Johnson, I think had only took his first 3 in the fourth quarter, and they're even. I was watching another game where they're putting him in, and like when they're up by 30, they're putting him in with the bench players, trying to just get him reps. Which we'll be talking about the Nuggets later in a Cam Johnson situation. But they're just still trying to fit Cam Johnson in. So, and I mean the San Antonio game, Jamal Murray was just cooking and carried his team, but like a guy like Cam Johnson, if he would have still stepped up and not like had to allow Jamal Murray to take so many tough shots, I think it would have just helped the team a little bit more. The Nuggets get a good win because they have a hard schedule and they don't want. I mean, I as a Nuggets fan, and they probably think the same. They don't want to be the 6th seed right now. Between the 3 seed and the play-ins, like literally like a 2.5 game difference. I think the Lakers are now at the 3 seed as of tonight. Yeah, they still are. But they're 2.5 games behind the Clippers or the Suns, which the Suns are a play-in team at the 7th seed. So the West is so tight right now between the 3 and 7. We gotta see how it's gonna play out, but I just know that the Nuggets have a hard schedule that they have coming up, and them getting a win over San Antonio as well with no Wemby was they looked out of. I think they just lost to a team they should have won. I'm trying to see what game that was, because I had them winning. Okay, I had them winning against the Lakers, and the Lakers beat them in that game where Austin Reeves and Luka are looking like such a good duo right now. So hey, we'll see this Lakers team plays, but like this Reeves Luka duo is actually insane. Hopefully Lakers keep him because hopefully Reeves doesn't leave and it becomes a Jalen Brunson situation again where Jalen Brunson was hooping with Luka back in the Mavs days, and then Jalen Brunson leaves and now he's the best player in New York. Um, we're also just getting to that point in the season where like so many of these games, like I don't even know who's checking in. Like in a Knicks Pacers game, like who is checking in for the Pacers? Like there's some games with the Jazz Trailblazers. Like I don't know if I could really watch these games. It's kind of getting to that season where point in season where people are just like throwing in anybody, giving people just 10-day contracts, things like that. Um, so hoops has been a little bit hard to watch, but this especially like the West teams, anybody that's in between the 3 and 7 seed, I am kind of tuned into just because I kind of want to see how it plays out, who's gonna be playing who. But I think I think the best 7 teams are in the right spot when it comes to the West standings. I think the Suns is the 7th best team, and I don't think I think the 8th seed. Let me double check that. The 8th seed right now is the Clippers, and I'm glad that it's the Clippers. I think the top 7 teams, 1 through 7, is right. We'll just see how they battle it out. Uh, that's kind of all I got for NBA games. I kind of want to hurry up and get to this what I have planned for you guys today. So I'm gonna be going over um competitive teams and people that are kind of contending. I'm not talking about teams like the Suns. In my opinion, there's no way the Suns are going to be winning a chip this year. There's no way the Clippers are going to be winning a chip. No way the Warriors are going to be winning the chip. So kind of those lower seeds, and even in the East, it's even a little bit smaller. Um, the West, I'm just going to be talking about the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Rockets, and the Lakers. These are my 6 teams that I believe all the way down to the Lakers. I almost didn't put them in here, but I think they have a small chance to win the chip all the way up to the most likely, which is the Thunder. So we'll start with the bottom teams and work our way up. Yeah, this sounds right. So I'll start with the Lakers. I'm just gonna be going kind of over their weaknesses and strengths and like what can bring them a chip and what are they looking for in this playoff run, things like that. Um, and the reason why they are even in this conversation is because they have Luka, and we've seen what Luka can do with even just a mediocre roster. As he brought that Mavs team, of course, had Kyrie, but those role players aren't like special role players. Like they're not like how the OKC have role players like Casey Wallace, who leads the league in steals. They have I can't even call Jada a role player. They have iHeart that's such an anchor on this team. That's such a good playmaker. Even like Caruso, they're just such a defensive hound on the team. I don't think that Mavs team really had that, but Luka is also playing with this Lakers team where they have Reeves, which them two have been cooking. Of course, they have Braun still. So I put that like, of course, they have Luka, and it's very top heavy with like LeBron, Luka, and Reeves, and then kind of when you go to that mid tier towards their role players and their bench players, it just drops off so fast. When it comes to a guy like Marcus Smart, I think he's a great player for the team, especially for the energy and defensive impact that he brings. But there's so many better defensive role players on contending teams versus Marcus Smart, if that makes sense. Even a guy like Rui Hachimura, he's just he's a great all around player. Can through a level scorer, play some defense, get some boards, things like that. But there's also just better role players in that position on other contending teams. And then also just a big part of this playoff push is how is DeAndre Ayton going to play through all like the drama that he's going through, all these things about him not wanting to be Clint Capella, him not wanting to put on the work, things like that. And I think this DeAndre Ayton is such a big impact and X factor for this team because having a center, if you don't have DeAndre Ayton playing hard, you have Jackson Hayes in, which like Jackson Hayes is cool for getting you a couple lobs and bringing that energy, but guarding a guy like Jokic, guarding a guy like guarding a guy like Chet or even iHeart, it's just like you're not really trusting that in a 7 game series. So yeah, that's kind of what I have with the Lakers and what they can end up doing in this playoff push. I think it's possible. I think it's really low. They're definitely the least favorite out of the 6 I have, but they have Luka Doncic, and I can't sleep on Luka. I've seen what he's done. So next team I'm gonna go to, which I agree with this. This is the second least favorable to win the chip in my opinion out of the West, and it's gonna be the Rockets. And it's not like a lot of notes. There's just one main thing that's so like it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's just their offense is so inconsistent, and it's also just so one dimensional. That's the right word. So they if KD gets doubled, their offense is cooked. Their offense is cooked. I mean, teams have been doing this the past month. I've been watching games, and they're just sending doubles at KD, especially when it comes down to that. As soon as the fourth quarter hits, KD has a double on him every single time before he even gets the ball. So you're trusting a guy like Sengun, you're trusting a guy like Alman Thompson to make playmaking plays and to create for themselves. And these aren't guys that, I mean, Alman Thompson's a great driver, but when Sengun's already posting up, and these people when they're playing, when they're playing doubles, the court is shrinked in, very shrinked in, because we're leaving somebody in the corner open, we're leaving somebody on the wing open, so everybody has to shrink in. And when Alman Thompson doesn't have that opportunity to really drive, so I mean, teams are really just trusting for Alman Thompson and Reed Shepard and Sengun to create for themselves, because KD is not. They're not allowing KD even the ball. And there's been times that I think KD also just needs to be more aggressive. Like there's been times where they send the double and he's just like, "Hey, where I'm not even gonna attempt to try to get the ball, come off a screen, anything like that." And I don't know if that's coming with his age. I know there was a couple games ago where he only took 2 attempted shots in the fourth quarter, as one of the best clutch players of all time, in my opinion. One of the greatest fourth quarter scorers, scores in just in general. Only touching the ball. And I'm not saying making shots, touching the ball 2 times in the fourth quarter, just because the team was setting doubles. I just think he also needs to be more aggressive, but I think it's just their offense is so inconsistent, even just with their identity. As soon as Steven Adams left, their identity with this offensive rebound has shot down just a little bit. They still have that identity, and it still has worked throughout some of these games. But Steven Adams was such a great just anchor for that identity that you guys had. And for him to be out for the rest of the season, you gotta be able to really run that double big lineup. I mean, Clint Capella's kind of working it just a little bit, but like he's not a Steven Adams, and I don't know. It's just that offense that's just so inconsistent. We'll see what ends up happening. And then my next team I'm gonna go over is the Timberwolves. I'm gonna talk about a team that they're super similar to. I wanna spoil a little bit, but there's a team out east that's literally gonna be the same thing as the Timberwolves, where they've been up and down all season. There's been some games that the Timberwolves should have definitely won. I think I don't know if it was that they played the Warriors like literally last week or 2 weeks ago. No Steph Curry, no Porzingis. They had D'Anthony Melton cooking out there. They had Pods cooking out there. You got this is especially, I think they were in a stretch where they had some hard teams to play against, and they needed some wins, especially with how tight the West is. And they lose this game to the Warriors, and I'm like, dang, man. And it's just like they've had some slumps, they've had some losing streaks, they've also had these really highs where Anthony Edwards is averaging 40 in like 3 games, and we've seen this throughout Anthony Edwards throughout the regular season. He has like dud games out of nowhere, and he averages 40. And in my opinion, I trust Anthony Edwards to really step up in the playoffs. He always has. To be consistent offensively and to be consistent with just that playoff dog that he has in him. But it's just the role players around him. Are they going to be able to step up to that consistent offense? Defensively, this team got it. They got Rudy Gobert, they got Anthony Edwards, they got Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle can even play some defense. They brought in Ayo Dosunmu at the trade deadline. They got the defense on this team, but it's just that offense if it's gonna be consistent and not up and down through a playoff series, because you can't be up and down in a playoff series. You got to be consistent throughout the whole way. I think they also have the infrastructure and the playmaking ability and the players to create for themselves and get the buckets, but you can't have a Julius Randle dropping like 2 for 12 in a game, or Anthony Edwards going 3 for 13, which I don't think, in my opinion, is going to happen. But hey, that's what we've seen throughout the regular season. So we just gotta hope this team doesn't bring it into the playoffs. For my Nuggets, it is such an easy thing to say when it comes to just what their weakness is really right now, and it's Cam Johnson. It's Aaron Gordon. It's Christian Brown. Cam Johnson needs to lock in. We have been trying all season, which I think he's only played like 20-something, 30-something games. We have been trying through these 20-something, 30-something games to get Cam Johnson into the lineup, get him smoothed in, because when he was playing in Brooklyn, this boy was a hooper. And I know he didn't have like a competent roster where like other people are taking shots from him, but like it's just the efficiency that he was shooting at. And even times where Cam Johnson wasn't really a ball handler in Brooklyn, he was still shooting corner threes. He was still kind of coming off those screens and doing spot up threes. This is what we need to see in Nuggets game, but we're going Nuggets games where Cam Johnson's not shooting his first three to the fourth quarter. He's not even taking shots in the first half. And like I even mentioned earlier, that he's literally playing with the last 5 minute teams just to get some reps in because they're trying to bring in Cam Johnson into this team. And in my opinion, Peyton Watson has definitely like took his role when it comes to like the true starting lineup of the Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, that small forward, which is Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic. But they really wanted that small forward to be Cam Johnson to have that um, the offensive ability. Also, just defensively, Cam Johnson isn't bad, which he hasn't been that bad. He's been okay this season. But Christian Brown's going to be your crazy defender. Aaron Gordon's going to be your crazy defender. So you didn't need like a Peyton Watson. You kind of wanted that shooting. Have Peyton Watson come off the bench, be that energy guy. But Cam Johnson has been so disappointing this season, and it's just they've been trying throughout this whole season. So Cam Johnson still have some games to finally just lock into it. Also, just injured player. I'm gonna talk about the injuries of Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown because those are also our weaknesses too. Is Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown have not been looking good ever since they came back from the injury. Um, Christian Brown has slowly got into his role, but he hasn't really stepped into that role that he was playing like last season. And then Aaron Gordon, of course, has been in and out because he came back and he was out for like a week and he came back again. But I know it's gonna take some time, but we're hoping, especially Christian Brown by now, he should be being able to be in that top, performance and peak for him. And then Aaron Gordon, we gotta just spend some time on. But like as long as those guys stay healthy, and if Cam Johnson's able to lock in offensively, this team is winning the championship. That's a fact. That's a fact. It's a fact. Let's go over the Spurs. I was looking at some of their advanced stats, and I was seeing that like they were, 12th in the league, and like such a specific thing. But I know they were like 12th in the league, and 3-point percentage against them. So I think teams were shooting 39% on their threes against them, which is like 12th in the league when it comes to like how it was like other things such as like they're like 15th in the league when it comes to their 3-point percentage. But I kind of wanted to really just do all of these just based on the eye test and what I'm watching in these games. And something that we know that we don't even have to talk about eye tests or watching games is that this team is young and they have no playoff experience. And that's something that, of course, is being like talked about multiple times when it comes to the Spurs winning the championship. Is can this young team that has no experience win the championship? And I feel like that's also just beating a dead horse because it's kind of already noticeable. So I was really looking at these games, and there's times where if Wemby is getting double team, which teams have tried different things at Wemby throughout the whole season. They've tried the big guy on him. They tried even small guards. They tried the double. They've tried the blitzing, and when teams are doubling Wemby, and he passes out. His players are missing these shots, and we've seen games where Champagne had that crazy 10 3-pointer game where he couldn't miss. We've had Stephon Castle had 30-point games. De'Aaron Fox can always give you 30 and a half, something like that. But the game specifically where Wemby gets doubled and we're passing to open shooters, like the Keldon Johnson, like sometimes Stephon Castle, like the De'Aaron Fox, and they miss these shots. The Spurs can have that in the playoffs, especially with their youth that they already have. They can't have these open shooters when Wemby's getting doubled for them to miss. Defensively, we already know what this team is going to be doing, especially when it comes to any twos. Teams are only going to be this team by threes, like almost guaranteed. They're this team already like 12th worst in the league when it comes to 3-point percentage against them. They have the paint locked. They have the twos locked. They just need to lock in on threes. But like when it comes to just that shot making ability, when Wemby gets doubled, he needs to be able to hit those shots. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for the Spurs. And then lastly for the Thunder, it's kind of hard to talk about this team. This team's almost completely perfect and low-key unfair when it comes to just how much talent they have. I think the Knicks have the most talent in the NBA when it comes to player 1 all the way down to player 15. I think there's people like Jeremy Sohan doesn't get no minutes. This man has better talent than the 13th best player on the Thunder, in my opinion. Or even a guy like Jordan Clarkson, Landry Shamet. Like, there's so much players on this roster when it comes to the Knicks, but that's a whole yap. But the Thunder, what I would say is last playoff series we saw guys like Lou Dort and we saw Alex Caruso. These defensive guys have such big roles and big plays in these playoff series, and just throughout the season, and we've seen even last year that these players also can make shots. If Alex Caruso's defense, I think it's almost unnoticeable. almost unnoticeable. No, Alex Caruso's defense is always noticeable. What's it called? But if they have Ludor or Alex Caruso into the game and they're not hitting their shots, which has happened multiple times, this could be their weakness for them, especially when it comes to just the playmaking ability after Shea. If Shea doesn't take that shot when he's driving and he passes out, if that's Ludor, Alex Caruso, and that's not like a if it's not like a Case and Wallace or if it's not like a Chet Holmgren in the corner, if they miss those shots consistently, that could be their weak spot, especially offensively. Defensively, this team has been rock solid all season. Not saying I don't think they're the best team in the league when it comes to defensive rating, but they're top five. They have the shot blockers. They have the steals when it comes to like Hasten Wallace and Lou Dort. And even Shea has been playing great defensively. But what's it called? It's just that when it like of course you want those players in to make those crazy stops for you, but they can't be inconsistent when it comes to those open shots when Shea's passing out. Which a lot of, I mean, that doesn't happen a lot. Like when Shea starts to drive and get to his spot, he's gonna take that shot. But if teams crash in and check into Shea when he gets to that mid range and he passes out, you have to hit that shot. And I guess that could be really the only weakness. There's not much of a weakness for this team. But that's what I would say. But yeah, that's all I have for the NBA. And it's just like again with these teams that I think are contending, which is the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Rockets, and the Lakers. I think all these teams have the ability to win the chip, as long as we don't see the things that I mentioned today. And now we're just gonna be going over the NFL, and we're gonna be talking about teams that really like them, because we've seen like last episode we were talking about some of the free agencies on the first day, but it was still free agency had actually technically didn't even start, which I didn't even know that. I forgot how the free agency worked in the NFL, but technically the free agency didn't start until that Tuesday or Wednesday. What's it called? And now we've seen basically every move that's possible that's really happened. I guess the only person that's kind of still out there is Aaron Rodgers is still out there. But yeah, we'll see what team Aaron Rodgers goes to. But we're kind of seeing everything and everybody who bought in, who really took into this free agency. And there's some teams that definitely disappointed, like the Philadelphia Eagles definitely disappointed me. The Detroit Lions definitely disappointed me. I'm trying to think on the top of my head right now who else really disappointed. The Broncos even, like my team, low-key disappointed. Patriots as well. They didn't have a crazy free agency and they were just in the Super Bowl. The Seahawks, I might do a disappointment episode for what I'm basically about to speak to today, because there's some teams that genuinely needed to buy in to almost not guarantee, of course, being a Super Bowl, but really have high chances, and they didn't, and they allowed these teams I'm going to be mentioned today to really take their spots. So let's go over. Oh my goodness, I know what I just did wrong. You guys, I gotta. I was about to sound like Flight right now and say I'm gonna cut this out the video. I had to go over the East teams and the NBA when it comes to the lack and stuff like that. Let me go over that real quick. Okay. My number one. Okay, I'm just gonna go based on seed in the sun. So I'm gonna start with the Pistons. This is all over the place. This is the first time I ever did that. I can't believe I missed that. I had to scroll down. Their biggest weakness that they're gonna have, of course, is just the reliance on Cade. And like if Cade's not dribbling the ball, if he's not playmaking, there's no one else that is. And just the usage rate. And I was thinking about teams that like pick up Cade all the way from like a full court, picking him up, and throughout a whole playoff series, the whole game. If a team does that when they have that much depth, if they can, bro, that's gonna be tiring for Cade. And like that worsens his offensive workload. That worsens his defensive workload. Or like defensive work or offensive work, and this is gonna make the team worse because Cade is literally not their whole identity, but it's basically their whole offensive game plan is have the ball in Cade's hand, let him cook, let him play make, let him get everybody open, and then also just a half court offense as well is just so weak. Which again, that goes to the Cade thing where if Cade's not playmaking or handling the ball, this team does not look good offensively at all. But again, like with this team and their identity, which is just their defense and their hustle, I think this could like when there's games that Cade isn't like cooking, when he's dropping only like 11 points, has a few turnovers, only a few assists. This team's hustle and like defense can really win them a game and like swing them to be favorites in the series, and that's what playoffs is all about. Is like have not having your star players, your best players have their best games. But if you have that hustle and the defensive side of you, you can really win a playoff series. And I think that's what this team has most out of any of these East teams. And to be honest, even some of these West teams, I think all the West teams as well. The Pistons have the most hustle and like heart in the league right now, and they could win them games just based off that. Um, to go over like the Celtics, if Tatum gets back to basically his old self, this team has to be the favorite, which is so crazy to say after they lost Drew Holiday, after they lost Al Horford, after they lost Porzingis. They bring in Baylor Shireman. They let Peyton Pritchard just grow. They let Jordan Walsh be a real player. They let Sam Hauser grow as well. To be a starter and just a consistent shooter in the league. And it's like so crazy to see his team still be good and for Tatum to come back and like in my opinion, like how can his team not be a favorite over the Pistons or the Cavs in the playoff series? In my opinion, I mean I think the Knicks is going to be the hardest team to play against if they do play the Knicks again. But it's just like it's so crazy to see how this team has like brought in a guy like Keita and made him like such a reliable and good center. He just dropped like 20 points on the Wizards a few nights ago, which I actually watched that game as well, where Tatum was looking good as well. And it's just like, yo, Tatum could even get to like 8% of his like his old self, bro. I don't understand, but this team has to be a favorite. And they don't have much holes on defense or offense as well. I was looking at like their advanced stats as well, and something that they lack in when it comes to ratings and net ratings and things like that is their bench offense, which makes sense. Like especially if Peyton Pritchard isn't coming off the bench, you don't have much of a playmaker. I don't think there's any way that you fully sub out your starting five in a playoff series. Like you don't really sub out, which I'm thinking the starting five is Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Tatum, Brown, Keita. I don't think there's any way where you will have one of those guys in, which I think, of course, all those guys besides Keita can create. But yeah, this team has not much weaknesses. Let's go over the Knicks. And Knicks, like I was talking about earlier, like the Timberwolves, just been inconsistent throughout the whole season. I remember like December where the Knicks was it December? I can't remember if they were good or bad, but I know they had a crazy stretch. I think they had a bad stretch and then a good stretch in like January. And excuse me, I was watching like a podcast and one of my favorite YouTubers to watch about hoops, and he was going over Mike Brown is still trying new lineups to this day, March 17th, 2026. He is still trying new lineups to this day. And we're like 15 games away from the playoffs. You can as a coach to be still attempting and trying new things 15 games before the playoffs is like, it's just a little scary. Maybe he got it all under control and he knows what he's doing. He's trying things that like just in case this guy is injured, just in case I don't know what it is, but to be still trying different rotations, different lineups all together is crazy to see in my opinion. Which like Mike Brown, which I think he won Coach of the Year that year that the Kings were like the Beam Kings or whatever. But like it's just the inconsistency, and it's just that coaching thing that like I saw and I watched and I was like, bro, that's crazy to me. Another thing is just like this team has so much talent. I was mentioning earlier, like there are 15 guys. I think it's the most talented 15 guys like any team has in the league when it comes to just like the amount of talent they have. I like just like I don't think Jalen Brunson is a top 5 player in the league, but like the 15th best player or the 15th player is like it's still a good player, like Jeremy Sohan, the Landry Shamit's, the Jordan Clarksons, the Miles McBrides, things like that, things of that nature. It's just so crazy to see how many players they have, which is of course good for like injuries. But like these players are, of course, aren't gonna be playing like real minutes when it comes to playoff series. But hey, this team has so much potential to really be so good. I'm gonna go over the Cavs lastly. Since James has joined his team, this team has looked so much better. Allowing the bigs to have big games and play with that playmaker of James Harden, the vet playmaker, that he has so much IQ and playmaking plays with the ball that it allows them to be their best offensively. And that's kind of what, it's not really a weakness, but this is what the Cavs need to win a playoff series is, can the bigs show up? Because Donovan Mitchell's going to show up. James Harden is going to show up. are the bigs gonna show up? They're also big weakness that like not much people know about is that boy James Harden playing on like a broken hand right now. I don't think it's like it's not actually broken, but like he has some problems with his hands, with one of his hands. I think it's his offhand, so I think it's his right hand, and he's gonna be playing through it because if he had surgery, it would take him out for the rest of the season, and that would definitely suck because you just probably had James Harden, and if you took him out, the season basically cooked. Um, but that is definitely something to look at. To see if teams are even gonna attack it. Like I wonder if that's like such like a if that's even a thing nowadays. I know this was the '90s. Hey, them boy, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, they would have dove at James Harden's hand. They would have done a backflip on that boy's hand. But I don't know if that's really exactly a thing anymore. But like that's something to just look after. I know like Kenny Atkinson, the coach of the Cavs, was saying how like James has struggling with even dribbling the ball with his right hand and stuff like that. And that's just crazy to think about. And we'll see how much it affects him, especially comes to playoff series. But the biggest thing is just how the bigs are going to show up. But yeah, sorry, East fans or just East in general. Sorry, I low-key missed that. We did talk about the football a little bit. What we're gonna be going over. We gotta low-key create that disappointing list. But let's go over these teams that really just jumped up. I put like basically why I put them here. Like a team like the Broncos aren't here, even though I think they're gonna be Super Bowl favorites again, like still contenders again. The Seahawks again disappointing me. They didn't jump up anywhere. They kind of either stayed the same or got worse. I'm talking about teams that made big jumps. So I'm gonna start with the Bills. It's not even a question. DJ Moore is gonna be. I think it's gonna be such a big help, bigger than like what we think. DJ Moore was great in Chicago, and I forget where he was before Chicago. I don't know if he was always. He might have been always been Chicago. I think he was in Carolina, but I could be tripping. And he even has small things that like I don't know much people know about, like the Bradley Chubb, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson around the edges, stuff like that. But DJ Moore is gonna be such a big help for the Bills right now, and that's what Josh Allen's been needing. And I think this could be the last piece of the puzzle that this team needs to make it to the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't be mad if they did. Because every season they have had disappointing season, and which the next team that we've been going over is basically gonna be the same thing. Is they need that one thing or that whatever it is, to fully like push them into that Super Bowl. And then for the next team I'm going over is the Ravens, and them bringing in a new coach is definitely like it's questionable, but like is it the last puzzle piece we need? But then also them just like making that defense even better because that offense is also so good. You definitely just need a wide receiver. Unless you really trust in Zay Flowers to really carry the workload offensively, but defensively, them bringing Trey Hendrickson was a great thing to do. And then also just Jalen Hawkins as well, another defensive, just piece to bring on the defense as well. As it has been good. And the Ravens defense has always been good, whether they've had crazy stars or just like no stars at all. This Ravens defensive coordinator, which I don't know if it's the same guy, but the whole defensive scheme and identity they've had has always been so good. And hopefully this is what the Trey Hendrickson and the new coach and even the Jalen Hawkins, hopefully this is what they need to buy in and make the Super Bowl. Hopefully this is what they needed. And it'd be the last puzzle piece as well. The Texans, I am so proud of. I mentioned it so many times when the season ended and we were just doing podcast episodes. I mentioned so many times that this defense is so good and they cannot let it go to waste. And they did exactly what I think they should even bought more, but I think they did really well. If I was the GM, I would have traded the first round picks. How the Rams be doing? Because the Rams never draft anybody besides Jerry Verse. They haven't drafted anybody in like 10 years because they've just been buying, and I respect it because they got them one Super Bowl. Could have had a Super Bowl this year. Could be Super Bowl favorites next year. It was all worth it. And the Texans did exactly that with bringing in Montgomery, which I think is not a crazy change. I mean, Joe Mixon was out the whole season where Nick Chubb ended up coming in. But the difference between Joe Mixon and David Montgomery, we'll see how David Montgomery plays when he's just basically gonna be the only running back there. We'll see how he plays, but I think it's a good buy-in for him, and then also just bringing in Reed Blankenship to help with that defense. They're just so crazy that they're even helping the defense more. If anything, I thought just buying into the wide receiver room would have helped a little bit, but I know they also helped offensively with the O-line. I forgot who they brought in. I'm trying to remember. They brought in somebody for like 3 year deal for like $30 million, $25 million, something like that. Which I don't know much about O-line rooms, so hopefully my O-line fans can help me. O-line fans can help me with that. But I'm so proud of the Texans, and they definitely jumped into my top 3 favorites to come out of the AFC, in my opinion. They have to be a top 3 favorite between them, the Ravens, and the Broncos. Gotta be in that conversation. Even the Bills in that conversation. My fault, Bills. I know you jumped up too, but I think my Broncos are gonna win the Super Bowl. What's it called? Another team that really jumped up, which they didn't really jump up to Super Bowl conversations. They could, but they definitely jumped up to that NFC Championship conversations. That's gonna be the Cowboys. Them bringing into that defense and buying into that defense is exactly what they needed. I think they needed to buy more into that secondary, but they brought into that the edge rushers and the linebackers. There was Sean Gary, it's a Jalen Thompson's. Is exactly what they needed to help around the edges. They already have Quentin Williams, which I don't know if. Wait, they have Quentin Williams, right? That's what they brought in. Yeah, they did. They do. Okay, because most people forgot about that trade that they had mid-season with the Jets, but they brought in Quentin Williams to help with that, the defensive line, and to even just have more defensively, which is what they needed because they keep letting like 40 points per game. But yeah, it was a good buy for the Cowboys, and then for the Rams, I mean they were already a Super Bowl contending team this season, pro. Them buying into Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson to make this defense better than it already was. I think they lost Cam Curl. No, they might. No, I think they kept Cam Curl. No. I'm like 80% sure now they kept Cam Curl. They just made this defense even better, and they didn't. Like I said, in my opinion, they didn't need to buy into their offense because their offense was already so talented. So they really just needed to buy into that defense. And that's exactly what they did to make themselves even better than they were last year, and they were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league last year. And I like this play. I like the aggressiveness that with them trading their first round picks and really buying into the season. I completely agree. Matthew Stafford's getting old. He just had an MVP season, but like, hey, he's gonna start. His hip will start hurting soon. I think this was a perfect buy-in for the Rams. I think this was a great free agency for them, and to just make them. I think they genuinely jumped a bigger level than they were defensively, and how this team's gonna play. McDuffie is such a crazy get. And I think it was definitely worth it. My favorite team though is gonna be the Texans. Out of all these teams that we talked about, the Texans gotta be the team that I'm so proud of. I think the Bills had a great free agency as well, but the Texans definitely bought in. It's exactly what they needed to buy into. But yeah, that's all I got. If you made it all the way to this end of the video, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for happy 15 episodes, man. 15 weeks of doing Foot Basket Podcast. That's like 4, 8, 12. That's like 4 months almost. Hey, we've been locked in. Of course, just like, comment, subscribe if you can. Share this to others if you can. I'm glad you tuned into this episode. Send me any feedback. Also follow the Foot Basket Podcast account on Instagram to stay updated with all things Foot Basket Podcast related. Continue to tap into the videos. Watch last week's episode if you haven't, because that last week's was a banger. If you've missed some episodes, just go tune into those too, because that helps me out as well. But yeah, I'm glad you made it all the way to the end of the video. I'll see you next week.